All right, this is my question. Throughout the last couple of lectures, we were talking about how everything exists and also how everything is a dream and really that things are not substantial. They can come apart and come back together. So for the lay folks, like in the monastic society, that seems to have its own constructed solidness. But if you are not within the structure, if you're like a free agent and you have a family and you have love and all those things that you do not participate. So is it everything a dream? The Buddhism itself is a dream. No?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
I'm just,
Sort of, sort of.
yes, like
Yeah,
everything is impermanent, but the teachings and your loyalty to the teachings and your heart for the teachings
yeah,
is very solid. Like that is my question really. How do you how do you know that it's not that what was it the fabrication? The how is it not all
Yeah.
a projection, for purity? Like because I think in a family situation you can have purity, but
yeah,
on like a microcosmic level.
yeah,
But there's attachment.
yeah,
So where does you have attachment to Buddhism, right? So the family people can have attachment and love in the same, but would you not say it's almost the same thing? But you're on a much grander scale. Like you talk about transcendental mind states and that there's that way to get it by unattachment. That's where I'm not really connecting there. Like how does that play for the transcendental state? Is that a dream too? You know?
yeah, yeah. Uh, let me explain first. So, for early stage, it's important to have sort of craving. Is that correct word? Craving for. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So when you mentioned about having devotion to Buddhism, and then a family having uh, a householder having devotion and love for their family. So what Venerable is trying to say is that for the beginners or up to a certain stage as a practitioner, um, we actually need to have this type of craving for the Dharma. And there is a technical term for that. In Chinese, it's Sun Dao Fa Ai. So it basically means it's a type of craving, but the craving is directed towards the Dharma.
So it's a calling. It's more of like a job to teach people to be correct.
Uh,
it's sort of
it's
motivation.
it's a force that motivates you to
Yeah,
continue practicing.
yeah,
Okay.
So I guess you take a step back and you approach this question from the individual's uh, spiritual path of practice. And for someone to actually want to walk the path, they need to be motivated by something, and that craving or the desire for the Dharma, for the goal that the Dharma offers, is an important craving to have at the beginning stages and up to a certain stage. But because you need that to keep you going in practicing, learning, and so forth. But when you get to a certain stage, even that craving has to be done away with in order to completely break through to the transcendental level.
well, it's something like we climb the mountain. We need to carry a lot of food and equipment until we reach a certain level. And finally, we have to get rid of this equipment and climb, reach the the summit.
Steeper at the peak, yeah.
Yeah. So can you catch the point?
Yes.
Yeah. Before the camp, sometimes it's called camp.
Mhm.
Camp, right? Base camp, yeah. So we need to carry a lot of food or
Right.
equipment to that camp, and we need to leave all our food and equipment so that we can reach the summit. So craving is important for early stage, but when we are about to attain the transcendental truths, it's important to get rid of the craving. It at that point it becomes an obstacle to attain the transcendental truths. So is that clear?
Okay, so you could say that you're in love with the transcendental truth.
Yeah, at an early stage. Otherwise,
Yes.
I don't have the motivation to practice.
I see.
Yeah.
And that truth is like a projection, though, because if you didn't get there yet, you really don't know what it is.
Well, what we perceive is sort of is not really the thing exists. It is. It's our understanding.
Okay.
For example, when people see a little kids, some people like the kids, but some people dislike that kids.
Yes.
Why? Because they have different perception.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So what is that kids really is? No one knows. It's based on what you perceive that kids, right?
Right.
Yeah. But we can have a positive way to to perceive that kids and treat that kids kindly, right?
Yeah.
This is what the Buddha asked us to do. This is because only in this way our world will become harmonious. Otherwise, conflicts.
Yeah.
So is it just about transcendentalism? You said it's about the trip you make.
Trap?
Trip.
Trip. Yeah, yeah,
I-
yeah, yeah. Trip. Yeah,
Trip.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So that
we
means
have a final goal.
Right. So
Yeah,
it means it's a few other things involved too.
yeah, yeah. So the teaching about everything exists like a dream or illusion is to help us um, get rid of the attachment to this world. So this is a teaching. Can you understand?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
But for us, we still stay attached,
Yeah.
yeah,
sort of.
Yeah. To add to that, remember there are 5 vehicles.
Yes.
So it's fine to be at the human and heavenly vehicle for now. But with your Dharma learning, you know that there is a higher option. And with your practice, as you develop your spiritual path on the human and heavenly vehicle well and properly, then naturally that would also slowly propel you to the transcendental path. So even though at the moment you recognize that I do have attachments to my family and there's no way I can give up my family, we're not asking you to do that immediately. What we're offering with these 5 vehicles, which then eventually converge onto the one vehicle, is a map of finding where you are at now and how to get to the transcendental state if you choose to.
yeah. You want to say
Yeah,
something?
yeah. So in the Abhidharma system, right?
You
What?
want to sell his product?
No. I'm being kind of like the opponent or the proponent of Sansevasa actually because he's teaching Mahayana emptiness, and I'm kind of proposing Sarvastivada, right? What is Sarvastivada again? everything exists.
Yeah.
So for the starting point, like for the most of the lay people, we need to recognize that everything exists. I think this is a very good beginning, that you exist, my partner exists, my children exist, my feeling is kind of real, and then you can refer to the handout again, right? So the existence itself is not that matter. What matter is the affliction or the unwholesome qualities in our mind when we are dealing with our partners, with our environment, whether we have attachment or not. So, same phenomena, but different ways of looking at the same thing, right? So, if we begin directly with the emptiness route, it's kind of impractical for most of the lay people, I would say, right? But if we begin with this kind of a solid Dharma analysis in the first place, then we can build toward that into the emptiness at the end. So that's why at the very first stage, we need to establish all Dharma first. I think this is what taught by Nagarjuna in Madhyamaka sect as well.
Okay.
So we are not contradicting actually, but just a different way of looking at one particular phenomena.
Thank you.
I would like to ask the one the difference between this Mahayana teaching and the Savitas.
Sarvastivada.
Yeah. And isn't it at the end the end product is the same? It's just to learn how to do it is different, isn't it?
Well, I think that the aim is the same,
yeah.
which is to attain the nirvana.
Get rid of all the attachments, the same thing.
Yes, exactly. But different approach to attain this goal.
Yeah.
I think
The practice is a little bit different.
Yes.
I think the Mahayana is more difficult.
More
difficult. The service is
concrete and
it's
abstract.
more like what you were doing. Isn't it? That's the way I feel. Because I also feel Mahayana is very difficult because they come out so
philosophical
to us to say, hey, this is bitter. If I did not taste it, I don't think that it was bitter. Something like this. But the other side, they said, this is bitter. So we did, oh yeah, it's bitter. So let's go, like something like this. We don't eat it. See, that's the way I feel the beginning is a little bit difficult on Mahayana. That's why now I think in the Western world, they like in the Theravada part.
Yeah. So Fei, if you attended lectures by Venerable Changzi today and as well yesterday, you'll see that actually Mahayana teaching is very practical and not philosophical in nature.
I understand.
Yeah, so we have the step by step on how to contemplate on emptiness. If you still remember today's lecture, begin by name, designation of name, and then compound, and then into the nature of Dharma. So it's very practical. And Mahayana masters in the past did not write Mahayana Sutra just based on hypothetical philosophy, just out of the blue, but they write it down because of their own practice, their own experience.
Yeah, also I think they developed this the Dharma originally, I mean the Buddhism originally to explore more easier for us to go. But I mean it's taking long time to understand that, to make it we feel so difficult. We cannot do this. There's always emptiness. How many times that they ask me, where am I now if I'm empty? I cannot answer that. How many times I have to explain five aggregate and all this? What are they? I don't see it. That's very, very difficult for beginners in Mahayana. But if it's like in the Theravada teaching, don't worry about it. Just sit there and feel minding yourself. Okay, I sit for 5 hours for doing nothing. Oh, that's why I said it's easy for some people. They don't even have to think what does that mean. It's more difficult more contemplation and more thinking what is mean in Mahayana. That's I feel because I also learn both sides, you know. So, but I feel that's the way. That's why I'm sticking here.
Yeah, there's a short answer for what
Because
is Mahayana and what is Shravakayana. What's the difference between Mahayana and Shravakayana? For my point of view, Mahayana focus on benefit others. Is the priority for Mahayana practitioner.
yeah, I use that as a like everybody have to be harmonious.
Yes.
This
yes.
is like this.
Yeah,
I don't say this is mine and you don't touch my thing. You know, you cannot do that in Mahayana teaching.
Yeah.
But I think Sravaka, they don't say I'm just doing my own thing. You know, I just do what I'm doing. Don't tell me what it is. So it seems like easy. Leave me alone, all right? But it's not that way. You have to leave everybody alone and then live together.
So Shravakayana practitioner try to be disciplined.
Mhm.
Don't they try not to harm others, but not necessarily they have to help others.
Yes, yes,
That's
exactly.
my understanding.
Yes, yeah.
But for Mahayana practitioner, to help others is the
To benefit
priority
ourselves.
for
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So that's my understanding. What about you?
Yeah. So, Faye, if you think about Mahayana, don't just restrain yourself to Madhyamaka sect on emptiness, because we also have devotionalism aspect in Mahayana, which is Bodhisattva's act, the prayer to Bodhisattva, which then relates to Venerable Shi's talk, right, about Siddhikarma Bodhisattva. So maybe Venerable, you want to add something on that?
Yeah, don't be shy.
For Anne-Marie's question, you say the dream thing and you confuse and how lay people practice in their family like situation. Actually, I think for Buddhist teaching, like Sansifa's class and the Mahayana theories, things like that, it show you the way. It's not that we have to do it now, but you plant the seeds. And sometimes when you have enough merits, you will get it. Maybe not just this life. And then you think about your attachment. Like maybe you had your husband, but who knows? Maybe some later, I don't know what happened, situation changed, and then you don't have the attachment anymore. So things keep changing. So you don't actually everything is changing. So you don't not really. I mean, you cannot hold on to someone forever. And at the end of this life, you have to let go. So if you know emptiness, it helps you before you go to your next life and go to a better path. If you understand the theory, it actually can help you yourself to have a better path in the next life.
I think in response, like what Venerable Van Rung had said about having the attachment to be able to commit to the austerities or perhaps the discipline of monastic life, I think in the family situation or in the love situation, you have to have that same attachment, especially if you have children, because sometimes you don't want to cook. You don't want to get the extra job, but you need it to maintain the austerity. You need it. So these motivations, I just thought it was kind of running parallel. And my thought was like, you're gearing toward the transcendental, where I think the family people are just like gearing for a break. You know what I mean? Like it's, but maybe it's kind of the same thing where I don't know, what in this, on the street, they would say, you're alive in the struggle. That would be the description, and you kind of are in a struggle to get where you're going against your own self or whatever. But I think that their struggle exists in this side also. So maybe the sides are dream. There's really not. It's just you're going in you got a different outfit on, sort of.
And for me, I have to do what is in front of me. I cannot decide like, okay, now I just go to my room and study. I can't. If suddenly lay people need my help, I just go. And as you know, I don't know what time I go back to my bedroom, but if people need me, I'll go.
Right.
Even meet at night.
Yeah.
Well, if your child is sick and it's 3 a.m., time to
Yes,
get up.
yes, yes,
It's,
yes.
you know,
I
it's,
mean, and I think, you know, if you raise your family well and you can spread a bit of Dharma to them, and it also help them. So from your circle, you actually can preach the Buddha Dharma to them and benefit them.
I'd like to ask a question about Abhidhamma.
Okay.
Whenever I see the books of Abhidhamma, it's this thick. It's very intimidating. It's like quantum mechanics. It's in physics. You say, oh my God, what is that? And today is the first time I've noticed that there are three kinds of traditions, you know. And I think Venerable Falun was able to describe it and also put in different categories. For a person like many of us do, who doesn't have an idea what Abhidhamma is, can you give us the ABCs of Abhidhamma, if you don't mind?
Yeah,
It's a
so
very difficult topic.
yeah, I can answer that in brief.
Sure.
I've showed the slide, I think in the first day or second day. Not that one. I think before you were here, right? You were here in the middle. Yes.
I was not here yet.
Yeah, so you guys have your own notes, right? So Abhidharma, if we look at the Sanskrit term, Abhi means higher, and Dharma is the teaching of Buddha. So Abhidharma is the higher teaching of the Buddha. That's from the Southern Pali tradition. But according to Northern tradition, Abhi means with regard to, and Dharma is the teaching of the Buddha, the same. So with regard to the teaching, meaning Abhidharma is used as tools to analyze all kinds of phenomena, all kinds of dharma as factors. So the examples are all the mental factors on your handout, but it's not just these, we have more. I just cite the mental factors part only. So that's Abhidharma. It's kind of explaining what didn't get explained in the Sutra and Vinaya. Because the Sutra, the wording in the Sutra is very abstract and very precise. Some of them are just verses without any explanation. That's why the Abhidharma masters in the past tried to make sense of what the Buddha said and what the Buddha did not say, but might be implied in the sentence. That's why we have different interpretations, different understanding that leads also to different practices. But then at the end of the day, the goal is still the same, which is nirvana. Right? Just like what I mentioned in the lecture, that the Buddha might only say that live your present life fully. He didn't mention about the past or future. He didn't say that the past did not exist or the future does not exist. So it leaves rooms for the Abhidharma masters to get into what was not explained fully into their kind of rhetorical, polemical explanation and expositions. So some sects, some schools might say, like Sarvastivada, everything exists, right? Including the past, present, and future. But then the other school will say, no, 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 no. Only the present exists. The past and future are no longer exist. This is just one of the debates that's going on, and we have many other aspects.
So it was not taught exactly by Buddha, but it is.
No, yes, it's not
was
taught by the Buddha,
extrapolated or
the
interpreted
disciples. Yes.
by others.
Yeah, that's why the 7 Northern Abhidharma books have authors. They all have authors, and they are all the disciple of the Buddha. Kind of like when you attend this lecture within, in the Yin-Shun Foundation, right? We have 4 teachers, and then after our lecture, you go back home and then you make your own notes. You explain it to other people differently. That's become your Abhidharma, right? We might not say the way you explain it to others, but you explain this way to others based on your understanding, addition, and maybe summary of it. Kind of like that. This is the work of Abhidharma.
That's the A part of it. How about the B and the C
The
part?
B and C part might continue into the future.
But I think you made it very clear.
To be
Yeah.
continued next year. Many episodes.
So that's a very good explanation. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean, in other words, it's an explanation of what Buddha had thought. Basically, your interpretations as to what Buddha had thought. Obviously,
Yeah.
but also, it's interesting that you were able to break it down to all the different things, even the topic on doubt. Could be in different categories in different traditions. So does it really matter which tradition you follow? I mean, whether it's the southern or the northern or the Mahayana tradition?
It's really depend on your preference, like which one is relevant to you, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just curious. Yeah.
I think in any study of religion, especially in Buddhism as well, you choose your own path based on your own preference. So like we have 5 vehicles, right? 3 vehicles and even 1 vehicle, which is Mahayana. It depends on you which one you want to begin with, but eventually it have to end at the same place, which is liberation. So the starting point might differ between people, but then the finishing line must be the same. Otherwise, you are not practicing Buddha Dharma if you end in a different place other than liberation.
I have a follow-up question
Sure.
on the Abhidharma. I've been thinking about this since you introduced the concept on Saturday. And I understand that, I mean, I think I told you that I had attended a retreat with everybody, but I didn't remember anything because it was so rich. It was just too much and it didn't sink in. But then after I heard your lecture, I started to think about there is one group that has always within the Buddhists who have always interest me because I think that they are very special within Buddhism, and that's the Tibetans. What kind of Abhidharma do they, I know the Mahayana, but what kind of Abhidharma do they follow? And how different are they in terms of what you presented to us today? Like the different categories.
Okay, yeah. So to be honest, your question is out of my scope already, which is Tibetan. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Venerable, the Tibetan tradition also follows the Northern Abhidharma. One of them is Abhidharma Kosa as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you think.
Well, they have different subject to learn. You know the geisha? No. 格西是格西啊。
Geisha.
Not geisha. Geisha is geisha, sorry. Wrong pronunciation. Geisha. Geisha means it's the title for knowledgeable practitioner, Tibetan practitioner. Yeah, so they have learned 5 main subjects. One of the subject is Abhidharma Kosha.
Oh.
Yeah, and also they have to learn the Prajnaparamita Sutra, as well as the Madhyamagga, Karika as well. So they don't follow the Abhidharma as their only one path. It's part of their learning or practicing. Is that clear?
I just wanted to know where that they fit, really, because Tibetans, the reason why I ask is because we are very close to New York City.
Yeah.
When you are in New York City, you see if there is one Buddhism that predominates in New York City, the presence of Tibetan Buddhism is very clear.
Yeah.
So it has always interested me. I've always been interested as to what is that makes them different within the tradition, the Buddhist tradition, because they're definitely different.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought that perhaps the Abhidharma was one of those differences, that sets them apart from the northern, the southern, and the Yogacara
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Venerable.
I have one more. My questions are a little different. When you're our teachers, I feel a great deal of care emanates from you all. So when you go up to the transcendent level, do you have to let go of being the care teachers, or like do you just go to another space? Like your ambitions to get there, but you will have no attachment, and then you will not really be like the bodhisattva? Or is this a bodhisattva that can be transcendent but not really care? Like I think that maybe there's attachment and care.
The city government for this that.
I think the Bodhisattva's compassion for beings is not attachment. It's not. It's different. It's not like our attachment. It wants to help them to liberate. So it's in a sense it's a completely impartial type of caring without any form of attachment or love or affection. But the expression of concern for sentient beings and their welfare, and that manifests in terms of what they do to try and help sentient beings gain relief and enjoy happiness and stuff. But in doing that, there is no personal attachment, no personal feelings or affection towards sentient beings. There's an impartiality in there as well. But taking a step back, with the way you were talking about getting there, and there referring to the transcendental state, remember that we're not going to another planet. Because sometimes, some people may get confused when they cross it over with Pure Land practices where, you have to get to a certain Pure Land. And so the concept starts to create barriers in a sense. Remember, the Arahats and the Buddha all have attained the transcendental state, but they were still physically human while in their last life.
Well, they might be like human on the planet, but they're not really functioning like the regular or not the average human being. Their mental state is such that they're really disconnected, right?
No, they still care about people and they still eat and do everything.
Yeah.
So they still function as human, but they have to go around on their
They
own.
still need to go to toilet.
Sick, and when they get sick or if they get injured, they do feel pain and all that.
Yeah.
But because they've realized the transcendental state, it doesn't stir up further defilements.
Right. So they're smooth. They're not really, they're not permeated by the things of the world. They are
Well,
just
they don't
they're
react
like
as
they're like eels. Like they don't stick. They go like that's no, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like they're smooth like that. They just don't hook onto anything.
Well, they want to help sentient beings. Not really like that attachment, but there is a mission, I think.
Okay.
So if you still remember the Dharma Sutra, who or what is the Buddha? Remember that passage that I show y'all? So the Buddha is not a deva, he's not a god,
Right.
he's not a Gandharva, he's not a yaksha, and he even not a human being because of the way we define human being. So
Right.
technically, the Buddha and all the sages are still human, technically speaking, like all of us here.
Yeah, they got their blood and
But
breathe,
what
but they
makes
don't
them
think that way.
different is
Yeah.
not that they're different mentally. That's because by human being we mean those who still have afflictions and those who still experience reincarnation or the cycle of life and rebirth. So all the regular human beings still have next life or future lives. But the Buddha and all the sages do not have any more future rebirth.
They completed the program.
Right. But technically, whatever human experience is, they still experience the same way. They still can be sick, right? They still can be hungry and stuff like that. But just that the external pressure or environment are no longer affected their mental states.
Where's their emotional realm? Is it gone? The emotional realm?
The emotional is still there, but only the functional. So to talk about this, we need another Abhidharma tool for that because
Okay.
yeah, because if the Buddha or all the sages still have like the wholesome karma or unwholesome karma, it's not a good sign because it will affect the future rebirth, whether good or bad. If you're doing the wholesome karma, you will be reborn in the heaven, right? If you're doing the unwholesome karma, you get reborn in hell, for example. And in Buddhism, especially for the Buddha, we don't want that. We are no longer wanting any good or bad karma. So they are all have ended. So all they have is just the functional or the resultant karma that just function on its own without producing any new karma. And that's why they have completed the program, as you said.
Okay.
And they are no longer creating a new karma. So everything you see, for example, when the Buddha is caring for the people, is caring for his disciples, when the Buddha gets sick and being betrayed by one of his disciples, Devadatta, right? Although he can still scold maybe his students, but it's not out of aversion, it's not out of hatred. So all the mental factors in this table are no longer affecting the mental states of the Buddha or all the sages. Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to understand Buddhist concept of the Buddha, especially if you are coming from the Western perspective on this dualism, whether this being is divine or human kind of thing of thinking. But in Buddhism, we don't have such dualism. We have gone beyond dualism, beyond the divinity and humanity. So who is the Buddha? The Buddha is, in a more technical term, sui generis, a Buddha by itself. It's another new category, right? But then we don't want to think of it as not human anymore. They are still technically human.
Yes, so
Thank you.
clear. So when we attain the transcendental level or state, we still, how can I say, care about our friends and family members, but without any, how can I say, negative craving or negative attachment. We react properly and react as what they need, something like that. For example, if they do something bad, if I have attained the transcendental state, I still scold that person to help him to correct his behavior. Do you understand? But no hatred. Yeah, just do what should I do? Can help that person, but you look me like the normal person, but the mental status or mental activities are different from other ordinary people. Yeah. So the action looks like the same, but inside our mind is very different. So just practice and you can experience. Yeah.
I mean, in the case of, in our case, we are so, we are, we have barely reached the path, and we're just we struggle every day, but you guys are in a completely different category. Would you recognize, like, if you were to see a bodhisattva, is there anything particularly special about a bodhisattva or an arahat? Because you said that they live amongst us apparently, right?
Yeah.
They live with us.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't, if we saw one, we would probably say, oh, what a nice person, look what they are doing for others. But would you be able to, based on your knowledge and your experience, would you be able to recognize somebody who is that special, who has reached that reality?
For me, I'll give you my personal answer is no. Only because, and this is based on, some of the stories I've heard, is that particularly, I'm assuming you're talking about the great bodhisattvas.
Yes.
Right.
Because of the story that you told.
Yes.
Right.
So usually when they do work their magic, they have the ability to disguise themselves so that only whoever their target is for that particular activity, they'll get in contact. So basically what I'm saying is, unless the bodhisattva wants you to see them as that bodhisattva, otherwise you just see them as an ordinary person in that sense. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, you could be on the train and Manjushri could be sitting right next to you, but you wouldn't know unless his purpose was to, enlighten you, and therefore he would somehow make himself known to you, but to everyone else, perhaps not. But I remember in one of the teachings we were taught, and I mentioned earlier, is the definition of a bodhisattva. When I took up the precepts, the master that was teaching us basically said, as soon as you make the commitment to uphold the bodhisattva precepts, you are a bodhisattva. But it just means, you're entry level. And then there is the, primary school level, and then the high school level, the university, and the advanced levels and so forth. So there's a whole spectrum of bodhisattvas as well. But if you're talking about like the Ksatibhava bodhisattva, I could definitely say personally, I would not be able to point him or her out in a crowd. Because again, I say him or her because when they manifest, they can choose any form.
If you see Mother Teresa, maybe that would be a good example of bodhisattva, right?
That she was recognized publicly.
I have a friend.
But what the venerable, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what the venerable is saying is that even they would not be able to identify them because apparently they don't want to be identified when they're working. Right? Mother Teresa was public. Everybody knew what she did, and she was even what is the word when they made them saints?
She's a
Saint, yes.
Yeah.
Saint.
But it doesn't seem how the bodhisattvas work.
But stay very
quiet about their job, right?
Yeah, but I think you need to, I would say, be careful equating the Christian saints with the bodhisattvas. And in this sense, I'm talking about, the great bodhisattvas that are actually have attained a degree of awakening, because sainthood, as we know it now in the Christian or the Catholic denomination, it's based on what that person's contribution has been to the church and to the people within their area, so to speak, and then they get basically it's someone submits, and often it's once that particular priest or nun has actually passed away, someone then submits posthumously an argument to say they deserve to be regarded as a saint because they've done X, Y, Z, and so forth. And then it just becomes a decision by the higher level priests. So, but from our perspective, all those higher level priests, it's questionable whether they've attained a transcendental realization. So, in that sense, that's why I'm saying. But I'm assuming you're referring about the great bodhisattvas, right? Can we pick them out in the crowd? Yeah. So my answer is I cannot.
I think even if you met someone that like and make you have a feel of enlightened or have happiness of learning through the Dharma, just be happy and then let it go. No attachment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't have because Bodhisattva wouldn't want you to keep clinging on them. This is not what they want. They don't want you to not like that. No. They just come and give a bit of help and make you freshen your mind and walk the right path, and then they just quickly go away.
Yeah, I think there's another way to think about your question. So, the purpose we recognize a person whether he's a great bodhisattva or sages or not. The purpose I think is we can learn effectively, right, from that person. But well, if that person have less connection or karmic connection with us, even he is a great bodhisattva, we can't gain any benefit from that guys, right? So the point is, we need to recognize who can be our spiritual guides. I think everyone can be our spiritual guide. So I can learn some good point, good, how can I say, good strengths from you, and another good strengths from you, etc. So everyone, if you can learn from everyone's strengths, and you become very how can I say, advanced. Is that correct? So that the point maybe should be to recognize uh, the the strengths that person has, so that we can learn from that perspective, and try to and also see the shortcoming, so that we can avoid that path. Otherwise, we become worse. Okay. Yeah, you can think about these aspects. Okay. Yeah, you want to add
Oh
something?
yeah. I guess mine is from another perspective, which is from like our own very subjective perspective in looking at bodhisattva, right? Since this great bodhisattva has the power of manifestation, right? They can change into anyone. So that there is a teaching in the Bodhisattva Sutra or Vinaya that say anyone that you can learn with is considered a bodhisattva. So since we don't know, and we will never know who is the bodhisattva among us, then why not we just assume that everyone's a bodhisattva, and then we can learn strength from them, and then avoid all their shortcoming, all their bad things, right? Because my mind goes blank. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, you can see his mind.
I have a friend who worked with Mother Teresa. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, what you were saying earlier about learning something from everybody reminds me of a saying by a great philosopher named Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie is a very famous author. He wrote this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he says, every person I meet is superior to me one way or the other. And from thus, I learn from him or her. So I guess it kind of reinforces what you all were saying. And maybe that's what you're saying, people Bodhisattva.
I was thinking of the Bodhisattva that the Venerable described in one of your stories.
Yeah.
That's the Bodhisattva I'm interested in.
Yes. But actually, he himself didn't say he's the Bodhisattva. It's others. Yes.
I think that there is a general thing that crosses everything, is that there is a care that is connected to working with people in a certain capacity. And there has to be some sense of compassion that is really, because even doctors, that my friend's a doctor, the one that worked with Mother Teresa, and she's always been the same way. She's half Indian, and I went to high school with her. So I can see it in people, even in the medical field. But what you're saying about this passion is really because it's to protect you and them. To do that, that's all.
Protection, what do you mean by
protection? That you have to have some degree of detachment for the sake of yourself and them. It's important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you have to be selfless.
Yeah.
What you're doing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, if you have that in mind, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Buddha Dharma can always help.
Yeah.
In that way.
I think though that part of it is that you're going to deal with all kinds of personalities too.
Yes.
And you have to understand them. It's hard to.
No, I think sometimes, somehow, you just know how to help the person. Suddenly.
Well, you know what? It's funny because
no. It's not perfect. There's no answer, but somehow, I don't know. I think if you have that, if you have the heart, if you really want to help that person, you will know. You will find a way.
It's called learning by doing. You don't need any theories about it. It happens and then you do it.
Even if you don't really want to work with a certain person, but then you do feel something about being compassionate towards them.
Oh, we don't
I'm
differentiate comments. We don't say like I want to work with this or I don't.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean like that. They keep trying to wager that you have to work for them anyway.
So for us, I mean, if we truly have the compassion, we don't choose who should we work with. And
that's what I
find working with anyone.
That's why I'm saying you can't decide that. And
it's
completely.
It's not that we can't decide.
I don't mean like that.
Yeah.
You mean from your perspective, say at work and so forth.
It's not
you come across a work colleague that might be a bit of a annoying, a bit of a pain, but you still have to work with them. So how can Buddhism help in that situation? Is that what you're trying to ask?
Well, to be honest, there's a guy that keeps wagering that I should work for him to help him. It's a long story, but I realize that I have to like him. I mean, I don't think he means to be the way he is. He's just certain people need help, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I just you have to leave it that way.
Yes, sure. you just help them and then no attachment.
Right.
And no dislike or like.
Mm-hmm.
They need you to help them for some reason and you just provide the help.
Yeah.
And then with your compassion and kindness.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
I mean, because that's all I go with.
Yeah.
I keep trying. I guess I'll just have to not give up.
Yes. It's part of the training as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
you
don't.
also need to have compassion for yourself and be honest, reflecting on if I continue to help him, will that cause you any significant detriment?
Well, I'll have to think
whether
about
it's physical or mental and so forth. Because we always say you help, but within your means as well.
Yeah, I can't say because I'm afraid that I'd be saying too much, and I don't want to defame anybody. I can't even put it in words. But sorry, I just.
But like somehow I think like if you can't really deal with that person now, you still have to protect yourself. Depends. I don't know what it is. But you know, when you have the ability, you can do more. But if you find it too hard, just stop now and then deal with it later.
Well, that's what I just have to forget about it for a while and then go back to it. That's the only thing.
It's okay.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just kind of feel bad.
Sometimes I think.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with saying no. As I mentioned, we're all still human. And so you need to let your compassion be guided by wisdom. If you let your compassion overflow to the point where it completely then causes you to buckle under stress and all that, in the end, you won't be able to help anybody.
Well, that's right.
Yourself.
I was trying to be a bit detached about it.
Yeah. So basically the rule is if you can help, great. But if it's going to cause you more harm, then you yourself need to make a decision where you stop, and don't feel overly guilty if you cannot longer help. If you want to continue helping, you also have to find ways to strengthen yourself to increase your capacity to help.
The offering I was given to continue to work with him was that I could work as a part of the elite fleet. I feel so embarrassed saying it. I'm going to have a special unit.
This morning, there was some discussion about the 10 wholesome precepts. Okay, right, and they were like body, speech, and mind in 3 different categories.
Yep.
Of course, in the body part, no killing, no stealing, that kind of thing. No sexual misconduct, and the speech is like no lying, double talk, no hard speech, harsh speech, and no idle speech. Now the hardest part is the mind part. The one is like no greed, no hatred, no incorrect views. Okay. The question I have is that there are some people or some people's actions that, it's not that the argument against that is that it's natural that we use in science, we use word different opposite wavelength, we're in the opposite wavelength. And how can you control that you have no hatred or anger about that particular person or what their deed is? And the argument about that is if you don't do anything or say anything bad about that person, what harm is it? I mean, it's just natural to wait because of what that person did. I mean, you just cannot, you have to harbor this anger and hatred about that particular person. But if you did not do any action or speech about that to that person, can you help it?
Well, the 10 precepts, if you think about it, it's something that you uphold if you make the commitment to uphold it. And even though, for presentation, it just says no greed, no hatred, no incorrect views. So this is basically the 3 poisons, effectively. It doesn't mean as soon as you make the vow of I will uphold the 10 precepts, then bang, you have to get rid of the 3 poisons immediately, because that's impossible. If you were able to do that effectively, you'd be enlightened on the spot. But the idea is making the commitment to uphold those precepts, you actually actively work to reduce the 3 poisons.
Reduce it.
And eventually, to reduce and eventually, with the goal hopefully to be free from the 3 poisons. But back to your example of if someone stirs you up, you know, in a way that causes you frustration and all that, should you or should you not react by scolding? Going back to what Venerable was saying, if he was enlightened and someone did something that, was frustrating, he would still scold that person, but not out of anger or hatred and not out of ill will. But the scolding has a purpose of helping that person to correct their bad behavior. So the motivation is actually compassion. So it's not saying you can't scold or you can't discipline, but what's your motivation when you do that? Is it purely out of hatred, so you're reacting out of anger, like road rage and so forth? Then that is not acceptable. But if in your practice of, okay, this person, I'm assuming you're a scientist. So say in your, your experimental setup, someone came and accidentally turned off the machine for a few minutes, and that completely, messes up your experiment and so forth, and your data is all gone. So one way of reacting would be to blow a fuse and then go and swear at him, and then you'll break, one of the 10 precepts about harsh speech, and then you go and lecture and so forth. But if that's driven by anger, then your lecturing and all that may not actually be precise and conducive to help that person not make that mistake again. But if you're serious about practicing the 10 precepts, then when that situation happens, most ideally would be not to react straight away, but use whatever it takes to diffuse that frustration that has arisen, whether it be meditation, going to the temple, talking to a monk, going fishing, or, boat riding, whatever. Diffuse all that negativity first, and then think about the situation wisely before you then approach the person and say, hey, do you realize you've done this, which has actually caused a bad chain reaction for my experiment and so forth. Look for a kinder and wise way to communicate with other people. That way you won't be breaking the 10 precepts.
Yeah.
Okay, so to add into that, since you're a scientist, and I'm going to break down what's happening here from the Abhidharma perspective, as well as from the Mahayana perspective, right? So when someone's angry to you, should you react back? So if we look at I don't think it's in this table yet, because I don't think you are equipped with this kind of knowledge yet. So whatever we received, if you understand the notion of karma, that's the result of your bad karma is ripening. That's why people are doing something bad to you, doing something that you don't like. But then it doesn't automatically connect to your reaction. So since the action is from that person who is angry at you, it doesn't automatically justify your anger to him back, because what you receive is the result of your bad karma. And then what you do is that you are planting a new seed of karma. So we have to separate between the effect or any experience that you received with your reaction. So that's one way to do it. So I often say that there is no reason at all to be angry at the person who is angry at you. You don't justify yourself like, I'm angry because he did this first. There's no chain of reaction there.
I'm not talking about a personal situation.
I know, yes.
I'm talking about more global situation.
Right, the same thing.
That particular person did something to
Yes.
other people. and you do not approve and you do not think that is the right thing to do, it is out of your hands. You cannot do anything
Right.
about it. You know.
So that's the bad karma that we all receive from our past action.
So what do you do?
You keep your mindfulness, you keep your wholesome mental states, right? This is from the Abhidharma perspective. But from the Mahayana perspective, if you remember earlier, who is I? Who is he that is angry at me? And who is I? Is there any notion of I? So we have to use our wisdom of emptiness in this scenario. So this is from the Mahayana perspective, which is a higher state of practice, right? So if you consider this person or that person doing something bad to another person, the thing is there a real person there that is being harmed and that is angry? No, right? There are only 5 aggregates.
Yeah, there's another way which is more concrete. For example, when a dog bark toward you, would you anger with the dog?
Annoying.
No, annoying, yeah. So the Buddha, just like our parents, when we do something wrong, they just, oh, stupid kids. Let me help you. Can you catch the point? Yeah, you just think about how to help that person with your wisdom. Yes, sometimes it's difficult because our wisdom is not enough. We don't have enough wisdom to help others, but we can think about it and we can find out a solution. Yeah. So without any anger, with the compassion, we can do something to stop the negative thing happen. Yeah. Yeah, and we still uphold the 10 wholesome precepts, and at the same time, we stop tragedy, tragedy or disaster.
Tragedy.
Tragedy.
Oh, tragedy.
Tragedy, yeah.
Are you feeling a bit powerless
Right.
what's happening in the
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the political situation we're in the
yeah, but you have to think about that.
I'll go with that.
Cannot change the situation because it's the karma of those ancient
I
beings.
think
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
it's all of us are suffering from this.
Yeah, but if
many
more
different
of us
reasons.
practice Buddha Dharma, at least more people can be benefited. No, because it's all the karmic link from all these people living together. I have to say. So don't feel too bad. It is just the way at the moment.
Yeah.
Patricia.
In the case of, in the case of individual anger, based on what you have explained to us, what you have taught us, we are expected to try and control that because anger sneaks up on you all the time. Something happens, it's like in a matter of seconds, you have blown a fuse and you are very upset. But in the case of collective karma, or whatever the situation, and I'm not talking about the US and what's happening in the US whatsoever. I'm talking about in general, in countries, in any country, in any situation. If you're part of that collective karma, what is your role? What can you do to make things better, not only for yourself, but for others? Because collective karma, if I understand it correctly, is very strong. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right? We're talking about so many streams of consciousness feeding into that anger.
From my perspective, I still think to practice Buddha Dharma is the best. So I don't know what
Is this moment is the corrective karma at this moment?
It's possible.
It's possible.
There's always a possibility. Okay.
Speaking of possibility, there's no randomness in Buddhism. It's all cause and effect.
Yeah.
So whatever you receive,
Yeah.
it's not random. Even if you sneeze, it's because of a chain of reaction within your biological body. Okay, continue to the question. Maybe the venerable who mentions collective karma.
Yeah, so you said that so as an individual you rely on the Dharma
Yes,
and you practice.
I practice and
Hmm?
somehow
call
it
the
will
time
help the
Because
people
he
around
want
me.
this stupid
And I just do my
questions.
part and they will slowly do their part. And I mean, I cannot control everyone.
You're full of sleep.
Mm.
Your eyes is all red.
Oh, that's a lot of work.
They're irritated.
That's still a lot of
No,
work.
no, no, it's
They're
just
irritated
the
But the
practice.
smell?
You don't think about it's really hard
all
or I have
day.
to
Computer.
fulfill what and get
computer, I think.
Okay.
the goal. I don't think about the goals.
Oh.
Well, you sort of know you sort of know we all aim
Do you have
at
eye drop?
but you don't like rank yourself
I'll go home,
what
wash
kind of
my
class you
face,
get
go to
or how
sleep,
many people I
wake
help.
up
We
to
don't
be
think
blue again.
Well, you had me thinking about the poisons.
the poisons.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
The
Maybe
people.
to ask the final question. Did you anyone have more question?
Yeah, time is
Yeah,
up.
You sure you don't have question?
Because I don't have the answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because that's I think that's I did all the question when we on the class, But I really appreciate, I really appreciate that I'm here, and also the Yin-Shun Foundation, to provide this program for we to be here to be the classmate, and I learned a lot, But I think for Faye, I really like to thank you for everything,
I let you
what-
in, right?
yes. You let me in. Yeah, part of this journal, and we all have I learned a lot from today, and we have the excellent teacher, and you all far away from all the that every part of the global come to here. We come together. We have I learned something really. I opened my mind. Firstly, I open my mind. So I'm willing to learn. So I learn a lot. I'm just like a sponge, and I come to here to suck in all the wisdom to my brain. So that helped me a lot. So I will be conquer all the future, that difficulty, I think my life is the most challenging, is in this year. But I think that I got the power, I got power. And something is very important for my life, And also that this class arrangement is like that's the Mahi Maka, verse with the Abhidharma. For this this kind of doctrine debate is on it happened all the time. But it's put all together. But I really appreciate, for taking 2 days off, and we as the ordinary person live as the conventional truth. But I will continue repeat that's cultivating, that's my wisdom, and I will continue learning and going home to doing the homework, repeat with all the training here today. And I think that the practice is very important. When we learn, we practice, and then we also I think I'm going to show you something. When I say something, I write it down. It won't make mistake. I write it down because it's very important. You make sure that what you're going to talking about, So that's very important because we have the excellent classmate here. They all you look at their experience, you will impress. I'm also very impressed. I appreciate this moment as the classmate with all of you. I'm going to thank you everything for you share with me. Thank you very much. And 师父, 谢谢. You all my mentor. Yeah. And what else who want to say something? That's
Yeah, I will add, I would like to say that I think I appreciate that the teachings are wonderful. In addition to the teachings, I like the feeling of you people, and that not in a negative, you people, I'm just saying, I like that your efforts to yourself keep you very light. And there's a freedom in your feet that is nice to hang out with, especially in multiples. It's very, very refreshing and restful.
Thank you.
Even though you hammer the academics.
Yeah. I forgot to thank you for you to provide us the recording, for the Zoom, arrangement for all the online who cannot be here, that's really helpful, Yeah. Thank you very much.
I have to add to Anne Marie, because we have have nobody take care of the technical record.
I told Guo just talk to me in Mandarin.
You are the best person.
Yes, I taught her one day because she called me. I forgot what it was. Then I said, Anne Marie, I just thought about you. And then he said, why? I need help. So
yeah.
So I said, can you help for take care of this recording and everything? Okay, I try. Okay, you come Wednesday. Somebody gonna show you. She did not show up. So, but anyway, finally I called Larry again, and then he came, and then they worked together. It works. So I'm really appreciative when I said I need help. That's what we're talking about, helping each other. That she is. I can help. I try my best. I never know what Zoom is.
Yeah, my assistant does it. Oh, wow.
But it benefits, and it will be recorded. It will
It is
be on record.
Oh, yes.
So everything that was said will always be there.
Yeah, in fact, Larry also make an effort to come half a day here, because he have a plan in the family. But I said, Larry, we need you. We have to be here. You have to force these people come in here. Yeah. Thank you for everybody. I think time maybe is over now, right?